Never forget to transfer your assets to the next birth. Krishna is a MAKHANCHOR. Spiritual training started with just 4 Mahavakyas they call. Prajnanam Brahman. All this is Brahman. That which you're seeking is you. People like Ramana Maharshi who did not speak. He taught through silence.
What is it that I am calling that I am God?
Pure thought emerges in your mind, and that Krishna comes and takes away. As long as you chase after an object, it runs away from you.
If we internalize Mahabharata right now, who would be Arjuna?
The law of karma says that there are 2 forces acting, and Ashtavakra's answer was, you are.
The correct way to die.
Beyond this, I don't know.
Welcome to another episode of the Make Sense podcast. This episode with Jaya MAM will help you seek clarity through life through the wisdom of Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita. Podcast is very simple, communication is very practical, things that you can apply in your life and change it for better. Thank you so much, Jaya MAM, for being on Make Sense.
My pleasure.
I have gone through a lot of your work that you have done on YouTube, and I love the way you teach through Vedanta. We can start with the basics or the history of Vedanta.
Okay. Originally, spiritual training started with just 4 Mahavakyas they called. Mahavakyas means great statements.
Okay.
These were just statements of fact, like Prajnanam Brahman. All this is Brahman. All this is God.
Okay.
There was no explanation. Then, if the student did not understand, that Guru went a little further to assist and said, Tattvamasi, that which you're seeking is you. You are God.
Okay.
Then the practice, Ayam Atma Brahma. While you're walking, while you're going about your daily activities, the Abhyasa Vakya is, this Atman is Brahman.
Okay.
And the last is, when the student reached the state of enlightenment, he declared to the Guru and everybody, Ahm Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Okay? So this was enough for many centuries, because the quality of the student was such that he or she were able to grasp from just a statement, just an indication. Then the human intellect deteriorated and the Upanishads came. So the Upanishads form the last section of each of the 4 Vedas.
Okay.
Therefore, the knowledge of the Upanishads was called Vedanta, Veda Anta, Anta portion of the Vedas, last portion of the Vedas. So even today, Vedanta means the knowledge that originated in the Upanishads, which is the end portion of the Vedas.
Okay.
Then the human intellect deteriorated further. And you needed explanations of the Upanishads. And that is how the Bhagavad Gita came into being.
Okay.
So the Bhagavad Gita is embedded in the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is like almost 1 lakh verses, of which the Bhagavad Gita is only 701 verses. So a
Right.
very small portion of the Mahabharata, which is the philosophy of the Mahabharata. Now, the backdrop of the Bhagavad Gita is a battlefield.
Right.
Now, this is an external depiction of an internal phenomenon that is happening. So, the Mahabharata is raging in the minds of each one of us.
Right.
So, the Pandavas were 5 in number, the Kauravas were 100. Pandavas represent the positive tendencies in us, and the Kauravas represent the evil tendencies in us, negative forces. Negative forces always outnumber the positive.
Yeah.
But the Pandavas surrendered to Krishna, which is the highest goal, which is Atman, Brahman, God.
Okay.
And they were able to overcome the negativities. Similarly, if you want to overcome your own negativities, like you could be lazy, you could be indulgent, you could be drinking, you could be whatever. You can overcome that only when you surrender to a higher ideal. When you're committed to something greater than you, like an athlete is committed to winning the Olympic gold, he will easily overcome his negativities and be focused. Then you win the war, and the war is internal. over your own negativities.
Okay.
So if you view it like that, then it becomes ever fresh. It's always relevant. It doesn't go out of fashion or out of context.
Okay. But who started this? Like you said that human intellect deteriorated then it again deteriorated. Now though it's we know how it is, right? Lots of distractions and not able to
Yes.
understand what's going on within, because constantly people my age and people younger than me are constantly confused. And I think that's the state of desperation, or that's a state of sadness if you see it from outside. Because personally I feel that even if you're doing wrong and you know that you're doing it, then it's fine, but if you're confused, then it's total sadness. So just as a history marker for Vedanta, who started it, as in how did it originate?
That's an interesting question, because the gurus of the Upanishads and prior to that had overcome their ego to such an extent that they did not leave their names.
Okay.
The Upanishads are known by the first word of the Upanishad. For instance, Kenopanishad is an Upanishad. Why? How did the name come? Because Kena is the first word of the first mantra of that Upanishad.
Okay.
It starts with Keneshitam Pratitam Preshitam Manaha, So Kena is the first word. So the dissolution of the ego was so much
Okay.
that the gurus did not leave their names. So we know a few because of hearsay.
Right. So we don't have any.
We don't know.
Oh wow,
who.
that's great. Right now people fight for credit and these guys have left.
And there is copywriting and all
Yeah.
that. There was no copywriting then. But why did they do that is because anyone who gets to the state of enlightenment becomes the true guru, meaning Atman is the true guru.
Okay.
So suppose you have reached a state of 60% development spiritually,
Right.
then you will communicate to the extent of 60%. So you don't need to do courses or classes on public speaking or oratory or any such thing. You just unfurl Atman within you. You gain merit within you. It speaks.
Okay.
That is why people like Ramana Maharshi, who did not speak, he taught through silence.
Oh, okay.
So Atman communicates.
Hmm.
Then there were singers like Mirabai, Sant Tukaram. There were great intellectuals like Swami Ramatirtha. They used different methods, but what really got across was the spirit.
Right. Okay. For the people who are watching this, I understand a little bit about Atman and spirit. People get confused with, soul, or when people call Ahm Brahmasmi, it means that you are God, but not in the literal sense, because then there is a body here, right? Through Vedanta, can we try to explain the meaning of Param or Ahm Brahmasmi? That what is it that I'm calling that I am God? What do I have that?
Okay. Before this, you spoke about the younger generation being confused.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening in modern times is that science and technology has developed the world to an amazing extent. We have a beautiful, wonderful world is in front of us. But behind the facade of luxurious homes and great cars to drive around in, private jets, fantastic yachts, is the human being who is depressed, traumatized, unhappy.
Right.
Why is this so? Is what Vedanta analyzed many centuries ago. So they discovered that they went back to basics.
Right.
That life is a series of experiences. As your experiences, so is your life. If your life is dynamic, if your experiences are dynamic, your life is dynamic. If your experiences are dull and boring, your life is dull.
Right.
So if you want to improve your life, you have to look at experiences and upgrade them. What is an experience? An experience is born when there is contact between you, the subject, experiencer, and the world, the object.
Right.
Now, in this contact, both need to be developed.
Okay.
If one is not developed and the other is, there is an unequal thing. So your experience is unhappy in spite of one
Right.
being developed. It's like You go and have the most fabulous buffet laid out for you, but you can't enjoy it because you have an upset stomach.
Right.
So,
Okay.
what does Vedanta do for your young listeners?
Hmm.
Vedanta gives you that appetite for life,
Okay.
the thirst for life. Today, we don't have that.
Yeah.
Ask a school going child, how is life with you? Boring. Ask a teenager, how's life? Boring. Everybody says it's boring.
Hmm.
And about 200 years ago, the word boring did not exist.
Right.
So, this is because we haven't been developed.
Hmm.
So, they analyze the human being. What constitutes you? We consist of basically matter and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Matter is body, which is your
Body.
external personality. Mind and intellect, which are your inner personality. And spirit, which is your real personality.
Okay.
Now, spirit is something that's unknown and you can't see. You
Hmm.
can't see, hear, touch. You can't feel. So, it's an enigmatic thing that you don't understand.
Yeah.
So, what do? You say, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. So, you stay with matter.
Yeah.
Therefore, we don't know spirit.
Hmm.
But if you really think about it, what is it that makes me see or hear? You ask the most intelligent, the most brilliant ENT surgeon, he'll take you up to a point, and beyond that, if you ask, what makes me hear?
Hmm.
He'll say, beyond this, I don't know.
Yeah.
That I don't know is spirit.
Hmm.
But there is a way of extracting spirit from life.
Hmm.
Just as there is a way of extracting butter from milk. You don't
Right.
see butter in milk.
Yeah.
But there is a way of technique of extracting it. And this technique is so similar to extracting spirit from matter that the story of Krishna being Makhanchor
Huh.
is projected. It's such a fabulous story. You know, children get enthralled with that story that he went and stole butter and ate it. Now, people who don't understand say, you guys, are you mad? You worship a guy who stole butter?
Hmm.
But there is a deep philosophy behind it.
Okay.
And that is, your mind is fluid like milk. It runs all over the place.
Hmm.
That mind, the milk, is first made warm, not too hot, not too cold. And then a little bit of dahi or curd is introduced to that. And then it's left alone for a while. Within a few hours, that fluid milk becomes solid curd.
Hmm.
And then you have to churn that.
Okay.
Not in a mixer, churn.
Churn it.
Churn clockwise, anti-clockwise. And when you do that, if you do it right, within a few minutes, pure white butter comes to the surface.
Hmm.
So that is the procedure. Your mind, which is fluid, restless, it's going all over the place, it's made steady,
Okay.
mature by just a little introduction of spiritual knowledge.
So the curd is the spiritual knowledge.
Yes.
Okay. And the churn, I am the
I'll
churn.
come to that.
Hmm.
And then, when this mind has become stable,
Hmm.
you churn it. Churn means assertion of reality
Yeah.
that I am Brahman, negation of the unreal. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I am Brahman, which the invocation of Atma Bodha says that. Tat Brahma Nishkalamaham, that indivisible Brahman am I, not this assemblage of elements. So there is the assertion of the higher, negation of the lower. And that's how the pure white butter, sattva, pure thought emerges in your mind. And that Krishna comes and takes away, which means
Okay.
that is all that you can do. You can bring your mind only to that last thought, which is very pure, selfless. That thought goes by itself. Now, how do you present it to ordinary people?
Yeah.
You say, Krishna is a makhanchor. He comes and steals your butter.
Oh wow. Hmm.
It's such a beautiful way of communicating a very, very subtle philosophy. But unfortunately, we have lost the meaning. So
Wow.
ask any common person, he might have heard of Makhanchor.
Yeah.
But why is he called Makhanchor? Nobody knows.
Wow. That's a very beautiful way of
Yeah.
explaining it. Right. But I had this doubt in mind that, for example, let's say I realize this. Okay. And personally, I'm into a lot of spiritual practices and I am close to the state where I realize that, okay, um, 60% of the time or 70% of the time in the day, I remind myself that, okay, this is what I am. This is what I am. Right. And I practice it through Nirvana Shatakam also, which also says that you are not the body, you're not the mind, you're nothing. It's just the like the Param Brahma or the. But when I say I am this, right? So when I say I am, so I'm associating a sort of identity or ego with it. So do you think by saying this or realizing this, it can attach to our identity or ego? Because the sole purpose is to go beyond it, right? So what do you think about this?
No, you have to do various things to
Hmm.
dissolve that ego.
Right.
So basically, we need to understand that what stands between me and that state of godhood
Hmm.
is desire. So the formula
Okay.
is human being minus desire equals God.
Okay.
Okay?
Hmm.
Desire means desire and ego.
Hmm.
The desire creates that ego, the
Right.
sense of separateness from
Hmm.
others.
Hmm.
So that's the starting point of the ego. And then you feed it
Hmm.
and you acquire desires to feed that individual as against the totality.
Right.
Okay, so how do you go get back to the origin? You have to go in reverse gear.
Okay.
So the spiritual practices that are prescribed
Hmm.
are karma yoga, the path of action,
Hmm.
bhakti yoga, the path of devotion, jnana yoga, the path of knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, now what does karma yoga mean? To put it short in brief,
Hmm.
it is working in a spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher ideal
Okay.
in the field of your talent, your
Hmm.
swadharma.
Hmm.
Like if you're a doctor, you work in the medical field. If you're a carpenter, you do carpentry. What you do is not what matters.
Hmm.
How you do it is what matters. So you dedicate what you're doing to a higher cause, and wonderful things happen.
Right.
Number one, main thing, your desires reduce because you have fixed a higher ideal or your mind is towards that. You're not feeding your lower desires, they wane away.
Hmm.
But a byproduct of that is enormous prosperity and success.
Right.
Because you take a look at people, majority are selfish. Huh? It leads to mediocrity.
Hmm.
Because thought of self comes in the way
Right.
of excellence.
Hmm.
The real achievers in life did not do things for selfishness. They were unselfish. Like Don Bradman was dedicated to cricket.
Hmm.
Ustad Bismillah Khan played the Shehnai. He was totally dedicated to the Shehnai.
Right.
Einstein to physics.
Hmm.
So this is unselfish. Then you work for God. That makes you selfless.
Hmm.
And you achieve miracles. Like, have you heard of the athlete called Eric Liddell?
No.
He was from Scotland in the
Okay.
1930s.
Okay.
And he was called the Flying Scotsman because he ran so fast.
Hmm.
He came from a poor family. He didn't have the resources to hire a coach or look into his nutrition. He just followed a simple principle. He said, God made me to run, and I will run for God. And he won the Olympics
Hmm.
on that. One time he didn't have money to buy a new pair of shoes. His old shoes had worn out. He went to a trash can, picked up two dissimilar shoes,
Okay.
wore them, ran, won the race.
Wow.
Another time he fell in the middle of the race. He picked himself up, continued running, he still won. And he would run the 400-meter race so fast that when people asked him, how do you manage that? He said, very simple. First 200 meters, I run as fast as I can. Balance 200 meters, God enables me to run.
Okay.
Anyone who works in this spirit
Hmm.
will achieve miracles like Eric Liddell did.
Wow.
So it's not what you do, And we all look for, if I want to be more successful, let me join Harvard Business School, let me do this, let me do that. Nothing helps. You just have to change your attitude, the motivation with which you're working, the purpose for which you're working, and you achieve success. Which is why when Mark Zuckerberg went to Steve Jobs and said, I want to be as successful as you, what must I do? He did not say do a business MBA. He said go to India to an ashram. And he followed him.
Yeah.
He came to India and stayed here 6 months in an ashram. And he has reached this status. And yet our people don't even want to understand what it is. We don't even have idle curiosity, which is such a tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, we're sitting on a gold mine and we're not interested.
True.
And we're going with a begging bowl to other countries.
That's true. Like you said, you just spoke something about desire. But when we invoke this specific topic, desire, a lot of people go mad because a lot of people who are currently living in survival, and by survival, I mean that they are worried about food, shelter, and even if they have everything, they're just worried about what to do, what to do, what to do. And when we talk about Vedic philosophies or Vedanta, a lot of people fight against that dialogue that you can say it because you're established or you are maybe, you have everything. And that's why you say desires are useless or desires are not to be kept. But without that desire, those people think that without the desire of, let's say achieving a goal or going to the next level of life, they won't be able to achieve a lot of things and they'll remain in the survival. And that's why desire is important. But again, desire is important, but then they're getting stuck in the same desire, right? So how do we explain this to them that, okay, desire is indeed required, but again, how to go beyond it?
Yes, see, Vedanta does not say that desire is bad.
Yeah.
Nowhere does it say that. It only says, go back to your childhood, go back to your own experience, your own life. We were all children at some stage, right?
Yeah.
And we were playing with toys. We had desires for toys. Do you recommend that a person should continue playing with toys? No.
No.
What happens? The desires of the child keep changing, keep getting upgraded. So at some point, the child learns how to balance on a bicycle.
Right.
And what happens to the toys? They fall by themselves.
Right.
Because the bicycle is more enchanting, it gives more pleasure to the child than the toys.
Yeah.
Then the child grows into a teenager and falls in love. Then what happens? Bicycle also goes.
Yeah.
Like this, every child, every one of us has grown from toys to adult desires.
Yeah.
We want money, we want position, we want whatever. But we're stuck there. What are we stuck with? Physical and material desires. Now, these give you the least pleasure. They last for the least amount of time. And they give you, so quantitatively and qualitatively, they are inferior to others.
Right.
So Vedanta says, why are you denying yourself higher pleasures? Don't get stuck. Move. When you move to the emotional, the physical and material desires no longer matter to you.
Right.
Have you seen a young couple, you've visited Mumbai, sitting on Marine Drive in the hot sun? Huh? You say, what is mad? Are they mad? No, they're not mad. They are madly in love.
Yeah.
So when your emotions are being catered to, you forget about the heat, you forget about the sweaty everything,
Right.
because it gives you much more joy. Then you move to the intellectual, it gives you far greater pleasure. A musician who's listening to music or is singing forgets about relationships, forgets about material, whether he's hungry or not, he forgets. Because the intellectual joy, contact gives him much more pleasure.
Right.
And the last is the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So when you extrapolate this into the realm of the spirit, then you begin to understand that then gives you so much pleasure that you are willing to give up everything else.
Right.
So it's not that you give up anything. These joys leave you because they are no longer significant.
Right.
That is what Vedanta says. Don't restrict yourself to a lower quality happiness and desires. Rise to higher desires. So that's number one. Number two is the fact that desire is the greatest obstacle to your achieving the object of desire.
Right.
I had a young boy who came to me and he said, I need to talk to you. I said, yeah, what's your problem? He said, I've fallen in love. I said, that's not a problem. He said, no, she doesn't love me. How do you know she doesn't love you? He says, I invite her to wherever young people go and she gives some excuse. So I said, stop asking her out. Now he pounced on me and says, but I lose her. I said, my friend, you haven't even gained her. I'm telling you how to gain her. So he followed my advice, fortunately, for a few days. And on the fifth day, he comes to me ecstatic. Guess what? She called. So what happens is, as long as you chase after an object, it runs away from you.
Yeah.
Turn your back on it. Even if you fake it, it works.
Okay.
Pretend you don't want it. It comes. Now, how it happens is, as long as you're chasing after something, your mind is agitated. When your mind is agitated, you can't think clearly. Your action becomes flawed. You don't get what you want. When your mind is calm, which is when you rise above the desire,
Right.
then your thinking is clear, you take the right action, you gain the object of desire. A person who's obsessed with money never gets money.
Yeah, that's true.
Who gets money? A person who's doing something else beyond that. A person who wants to get married, is desperate to get married, never gets married. If you're chilled about it, you get married.
Yeah.
So that is what the thing is. These 2 points lead to the advice that Vedanta gives. Rise above desire. Pick a
Right.
higher desire.
Right. Very interesting. Okay. Um, right now, a lot of people, as we say, we call it Kali Yuga, right? And we try to blame a lot of things to Kali Yuga also, that whatever bad is happening is because of Kali Yuga is there and the situation ही ऐसी है या word ही ऐसा है. But when we see from like perspective of a viewer, what's happening right now is everyone is, like I said, very confused, into very bad states of mind. Depression is at its peak. People with everything, like all the richness, all the physical material support, they're still sad and wanting or longing for more. It's almost similar to being in a battleground, but you don't know who you're fighting. The enemies are invisible, and like we talked about Bhagavad Gita, it was also it was said, or the Bhagavad Gita happened in a battleground, but there we know that okay, Arjun is there and Krishna is there. For a moment, if we imagine, let's say that Mahabharata didn't happen, but if we want to internalize the whole thing for us and for anyone to understand, if we internalize Mahabharata right now, who would be Arjuna? Who would be Krishna? And how do we, learn from it and apply it in our practical life?
Okay, let's go back to your original statement of
Yeah.
Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
Yes, we are supposed to be in Kali Yuga. And the environment is not righteous as it used to be in Satya Yuga,
Yeah.
the way it is described. But the fact is that the world that you experience is a reflection of your own mind, is a projection of your mind. So if you entertain positive thoughts, if you live a life of high values,
Right.
if you live a joyful, cheerful, happy life, your world becomes that. And that is what it is. See, you think we believe we live in the same city, Delhi. We don't. A musician sees a musical world, a politician sees a political world,
Yeah.
a crook sees a
Crooked
crooked
word.
world. So, the world being what it is, you take that initiative to change, to go against the tide
Hmm.
and establish righteousness within you, you change the world. As somebody said, a Muslim saint said of Sri Ramakrishna,
Hmm.
in Kali Yuga, you've created a Satya Yuga. Mhm.
Yeah.
So you can create an oasis of peace and tranquility
Hmm.
in this Kali Yuga. And that is our responsibility.
Right.
So every one of us, we become little oases. You change the world.
And do we do it with thoughts?
Yes.
Or like you said, can we pretend that also?
No, that can't be pretend. You can't pretend. You have to cultivate
Hmm.
positive
Hmm.
thoughts.
Hmm.
And then when you see the difference, see, you entertain a negative thought, that moment you are stressed out.
Yeah.
Huh?
True.
Cultivate a positive thought, that moment you're happy.
Hmm.
And all of us are looking outside and blaming others for our misfortune. Hmm? When the truth is that it's our own thoughts.
Hmm.
So you say, never mind what other people are doing. Let me focus on myself. And even if somebody has done an injustice to me or done something wrong to me, let me take it, view it as the law of karma is functioning. I'm getting it because I deserve it.
Hmm.
So let me look within, change my thoughts, change my attitude, and my life will change. Never mind that guy.
Yeah.
He has to meet with his misfortune.
Hmm.
So once you accumulate, collect your thoughts towards yourself, every thought makes a big difference in your life.
Right.
So this is portrayed in your next question. Who is the Arjuna? You.
Okay.
Who is Krishna? The words of the Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm.
So Krishna may not be there in real life, but his words ring true. The message of the Bhagavad Gita is very, very real. Connect with it, you experience a Krishna in your life.
Right. Okay.
And in real life, there are people who have lived the values.
Hmm.
They may or may not have reached the state of realization, but they have lived a life that is higher than ours.
Hmm.
We can learn a lot from their life, from their teachings, from their advice, and grow ourselves.
Right. What does, let's say, I, learn from Bhagavad Gita, okay, and I try to read it, or someone who's trying to read it or understand it in that context. Let's say someone who has a real tragedy in their life, right? We talk about sadness in perspective of things that are not real tragedies, like for example job and work and not getting money or not getting enough food. These are not real tragedies in my opinion. Real tragedies for people might be that someone died, or someone left them, or someone maybe did something bad to them in their experience. How do these people deal with it through Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, that's a very good question, because Vedanta says
Hmm.
that if you want to live life, you must have a proper understanding of what the world is,
Yeah.
of what you are,
Hmm.
and how to establish the right relationship with the world.
Right.
In that lies your success.
Hmm.
For instance, the ocean is full of waves.
Yeah.
There will never be an ocean anywhere in the world that is free from waves.
Hmm.
Similarly, the world means challenges. So you can't sit there waiting for challenges to go from the world. Hmm? You have to learn how to deal with the challenges.
Hmm.
Just as the ocean, if you go to a place which has huge waves and you see people who are surfing in water, in the ocean water, if a small wave comes, they ride over it
Yeah.
seamlessly.
Yeah.
If a big wave comes, they duck under it and they go so gracefully. You should see that. It's such a pleasure watching.
Hmm.
They never get thrown off balance, they don't fall, because they have learned the art of sporting with the waves.
Hmm.
Similarly, Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita, teaches us the technique of sporting with life's challenges.
Right.
The greater the challenge, the greater is your enjoyment.
Hmm.
When you know how to live life, when you have learned the technique.
Yeah.
Because we haven't learned, it's like an ordinary person going into the sea, you get bloodshot eyes, the waves go into your eyes. So it's fundamental, and before you live life, it is absolutely necessary to learn the technique of living.
Right.
Many people view the Bhagavad Gita as a religious text. It is not. It is something that teaches you how to live life. For instance,
Yeah.
Dhruva in our scriptures was a young boy, the son of a king, and he was sitting on his father's lap playing. His stepmother comes and throws him and puts her son on the king's lap because she wants her son to become the future king. So this boy goes crying to the mother and complains. The mother, in her wisdom, does not even speak about the stepmother.
Yeah.
She says, "This is life, my son. Sometimes you get what you want, other times you will not get what you want." So he says, "But I want only happiness." She said, "That you will not get in the world." Where will I get it then? Only when you get to God.
Right.
So he says, "Then where is God?" She says, "Inside." And off he goes. He's in deep meditation. Vishnu appeared before him and said, "I'm very pleased with your sadhana, Dhruv. Open your eyes." He said, "My mother told me that God is inside. If you're God, come inside." See, this is the confidence that we gain when we understand life as it is. When we learn the technique of overcoming challenges, then we don't get cold feet at every challenge that comes our way.
Right.
So, life, birth, and death are part of life. So, you have to learn to deal with it. And if you understand what death is, yes, you will feel grief, but you will not be affected by it.
Yeah.
Because you understand that every person who's dead has moved on to a better life.
Yeah.
Why should I resist it? If I love him, I must say, "Please go ahead. My surrender to you, my best wishes with you, but I will not cry and hang on to the person."
Yeah.
So it just gives a positive and the right perspective in life, the Bhagavad Gita. And then there is no place for grief. Krishna's main message in the Bhagavad Gita is this: there is no place for grief. Oh, Arjuna, you are mourning for people that you should not be mourning for. The wise don't grieve either for the living or for the dead.
Yeah.
It's a very positive philosophy. Where as you read it, as you understand it, as you start living it, you get goosebumps at just the richness of the knowledge.
Right.
And then you live a happy life.
Right. Okay. I'm sure people who listen to this, they might have a like conflicted argument about it, that when someone goes through it, like a lot of people tell me also कि जिसके साथ होता है वही समझता है, or maybe people can say anything on the internet, but whoever goes through it goes through it. Similar situations have happened with me personally, but how I took it was that, okay, if like this is happening, it may be something for the good, or if this is happening, it might be just as it is, like just pure acceptance with it, without even fighting the whole thing. Like, because I feel personally that I am not in control, right? The philosophy of thinking that, okay, I am not the doer, I'm just here, I'm just doing things for sure, but I am not doing it. Like, for example, let's say I'm doing this episode, I am here as a medium, but there is no big I here that मैंने किया या मेरे से related something है. But at the same time, people say when you say this that you are not the doer, तो फिर आप तो कुछ भी कर लोगे, then you might not reach your greatest heights. And I've read in one of the Vedant books that you are only the observer. So how does that go with?
Yes, you've asked many things.
Yeah. Now, the main question is that, let's say if I say that I am not the doer, I am the observer, right? But then people think this in terms of opportunities. जैसे कोई अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी आई, तो आपको कैसे पता? हाउ डू यू नो दैट दिस इज द राइट अपॉर्चुनिटी व्हेन यू आर नॉट द डूअर?
No. See, it is an understanding that when you do whatever it is that you're doing,
Yeah.
let's say a cricketer, Virat Kohli, scores a century.
Yeah.
How much of it is his? Huh?
Yeah.
If you understand, somebody trained him, somebody has given him the energy, there is a dietitian who's there is all kinds of people. See, his support system is there behind him.
Yeah.
And beyond that, is there is a divine power
Hmm.
that has given him the ability to play cricket, the talent in that field. So the more you analyze, the more you understand that I am really not the doer.
Yeah.
you know, Is a whole lot of things that have come together that are functioning through me. So I am only the nimitta, the excuse, the reason for all of this to function
Through me.
through me.
Hmm.
So I'm not the doer.
Yeah.
Meaning your ego is not functioning.
Hmm.
So when your ego is not functioning, what happens actually is you open your mind up 100% to divinity.
Hmm.
And divinity flows through you. So whatever comes out of you is perfect. Mm.
Okay. Understood.
This doesn't mean that you don't give your best. You give your best.
Hmm.
You act as if your life depends on it,
Yeah.
knowing fully well that it does not matter. You know? This is perfect objectivity.
Okay.
There is no excitement. There is no ego playing up. There is no saying, "Oh, you know who I am." That doesn't come in the way at all.
Right.
So all of us must have that as the goal
Hmm.
and work towards it.
Right.
So it doesn't happen overnight.
Hmm.
You have to do it in stages. So you have to first understand, okay, I'm doing, but I have this support system behind me, and then who gave me the talent? Who has ensured that I am in good health? If I get malaria or something like that, I'm not going to be able to even
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
So there are so many things. And the higher the level of your surrender to divinity, the greater is the power that operates through you.
Right. This is almost like when people say that he or she is self-made. I personally say that nothing is self-made because there is even to get you to this earth, you need two people.
Exactly.
So okay, great. Uh, how can I increase my free will according to Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita? And how do I know that okay, this is the destiny, or this is where should I go, or this is what I should do?
Okay. See, the law of karma says
Hmm.
that there are two forces acting
Hmm.
at any time. One is destiny or prarabdha.
Okay.
The other is purushartha or self-will.
Right.
Hmm? First, law of karma means action. So
Hmm.
let's analyze action.
Hmm.
A golfer plays golf.
Yeah.
Why does he play golf? That action of golf comes because he has a desire to play golf.
Yeah.
Where did the desire come from? At some point, he thought of golf.
Hmm.
And as he thought more and more of golf, he developed a desire for it. Why did the thought of golf come to him and not to his wife or to his children? Because we say he has a vasana for golf.
Okay.
Vasana means a deep rooted interest, a powerful leaning towards it, a talent in it, and a strong leaning, a strong inclination
Very
towards
powerful desire in
it. It
basic.
need not be powerful, but it has vasana. Vasana can be powerful, vasana can be weak.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
So he has a vasana for it. So this vasana manifests as thought in the intellect.
Hmm.
It transforms into a desire at the mind level and action at the physical level.
Yeah.
So now that vasana, thought, desire, action is what creates your destiny.
Okay.
You are what you are because of the cumulative effect of all your past thoughts, desires, and actions, which is your present vasana load,
Okay.
collection of vasanas.
Hmm.
This is a given. You can't change it.
Okay.
It's irrevocable.
Okay.
And all beings act as per their vasanas.
Yeah.
A dog barks, a cow is mild, a deer is agile, an elephant is slow. They can't change. But when it comes to the human being, we seem to have a dual track. One is destiny, prarabdha, but the other is self-effort,
Right.
purushartha.
Right.
This is the tool which you use to change your life, which we can use to change our lives, Many of us don't use it powerfully enough, so we just go along with the destiny.
Okay.
So there's not much change between the time you were born and the time you die. But there are people who change. Like in our shastras, in our scriptures, they say a dacoit became one of the Saptarishis.
Valmiki.
Started life as a dacoit. He became one of the Saptarishis, one of the 7 all-time greats. A beggar can become a millionaire, and a billionaire can become bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that is it. An alcoholic can become sober,
Hmm.
and a sober guy can become an alcoholic. So that is the power that we have. And if we understand the power that we have, all you have to do is fix a goal. This is what I want to achieve in life. This is what I want to become in life. And then constantly, consistently, persistently keep putting in thoughts towards that direction. Thought, desire, action. That develops a momentum that changes your prarabdha,
Okay.
changes your destiny. Because every moment your destiny is changing. It's like a bank account.
Yeah.
Every transaction changes your balance.
Hmm.
So what we normally do is some positive, some negative. So we end up more or less the same. But if you decide that you want to change and you put in constant effort, by God, you change.
Right.
And the world is astounded when, you earn laurels and accolades from the world. But more importantly, you gain the satisfaction that I have
Right.
done what I set out to achieve.
Great. When we talk about Bhagavad Gita's teachings, one, I want to know about moksha as an idea, because when we talk about purusharth, we talk about dharma, arth, kam, and moksha, right? Um, I think three of them we somehow do. Like dharma, arth, kam, we do. Like we do our goals, we do our money and purpose, we do our calm desires and everything. But moksha is still confused. Like we think moksha is something which is after the life, or maybe if I do everything right, if I don't kill an animal, or if I don't do, wrong things, then I'll attain moksha. So what does it say about the moksha? Like what is Bhagavad Gita's teachings about it?
See, we go through 3 states of consciousness.
Okay.
The waking state, we are all awake now.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to sleep, you're in either deep sleep or dream. Okay? Now we are restricted to these 3 states of consciousness. We don't know anything beyond it.
Yeah.
Now, what the Bhagavad Gita says, and this is something that is so important that we need to really think about, is that there is not much difference between the dream and the waking state. In fact, in an Upanishad, they refer to the waking also as dream.
Okay.
So, Shankaracharya, for instance, in that invocation has said, Yat swapna jagara sushuptam aveti nityam. That which is constantly aware of the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. That is the real state.
Okay.
That is the state of moksha, freedom.
Okay.
And why is it called freedom? Because you are free from the trauma, the agitation, the problems of the waking state. Just as, let's say, you go to sleep and you dream. You dream, in fact, King Janaka dreamt that. He was a king. He went to sleep, he dreamt that he was a beggar begging in the same state where he was king. And he woke up with a fright. And he called for an emergency meeting of his cabinet. And he told them, he said, I dreamt that I was a beggar. Now, my question is, am I the king who dreamt that he was a beggar? Or am I the beggar now imagining myself to be king?
Okay.
This question doesn't arise to any one of us.
True.
Because what happens with us is, whichever state we are in, we believe that to be true and we negate everything else.
Yeah.
So let's say you dream that you are suffering from penury and starvation, you haven't eaten for 3 days. And your friend who has a passport to the dream tells you, what rubbish are you talking? You just ate, you overate and slept, which is why you're dreaming. Will you accept that? No, you say, I
No.
haven't eaten for 3 days.
Hmm.
And once you wake up, you immediately negate the dream as a meaningless nothing.
Hmm.
That needs to be questioned. Which of the two is real?
Okay.
So the cabinet ministers had no clue what he was talking about. So they went to this sage called Ashtavakra,
Hmm.
enlightened soul.
Yeah.
He said he understood that these guys would not understand. So he said, on the appointed day, I will appear in the court of the king and give him the answer myself.
Hmm.
So he appeared, the dignified, regal sage. And King Janaka asked him the question with the same intensity that he felt when he woke up. He
Right.
said, am I the king who dreamt that he was a beggar, or am I the beggar who now thinks that I'm king?
Hmm.
And Ashtavakra's answer was, you are neither. You are not the king, you are not the beggar, you are not the deep sleeper, you are yourself, Atman, spirit, Brahman.
Okay.
That started his spiritual journey, and he also realized, he also became enlightened. So, that is moksha.
Hmm.
Now, there is no way of confirming this
Yeah.
because you are in a lower state. You know, a drunkard will never understand he's drunk because he's in a conditioned state.
Yeah.
Similarly, we are in a conditioned state, we don't understand. But the more you think about it,
Hmm.
the more objective you become, the more distanced you become from the happenings. You don't get involved in what is happening around you. You become a mature individual.
Hmm.
You give less importance to desires for petty little things. And you grow spiritually. And the final thing is, like I said earlier, the formula is human being minus desire equals God.
Hmm.
You drop your last thought,
Hmm.
MAKHANCHOR, and you become the ocean. It's like there is a bubble on the surface of the ocean.
Huh.
That bubble then assumes an identity separate from the ocean.
Hmm.
Says, I'm a bubble. And then I must become bigger and swallow up all the other bubbles. And the last thing is I become so big that the bubble bursts. And what happens?
Becomes the ocean.
Becomes the ocean. So when you look at it from the bubble's point of view, oh my God, the bubble has died. There's grief.
Hmm.
But when you look at it from the ocean's point of view, even when the bubble has formed, what is the bubble? A thin film of water that has enclosed a little bit of air.
Hmm.
That is ego.
Yeah.
Ego is all hawa.
Gas.
Gas.
A lot of people call it gas. Yeah. Okay.
You let go of the gas,
Hmm.
what happens? You are the totality.
Hmm.
You are that mighty Brahman.
Hmm.
And it's like imagine the bubble understands it's the ocean.
Yeah.
It's that transformation. You become free
Hmm.
from, you drop all your silly, stupid concepts
Okay.
and understand who you really are. That is moksha. That is one of the most fantastic notions, concepts that has been put forth by Vedanta.
Hmm.
And not just put forth, they give a clear pathway to moksha. Anyone, any human being, anywhere in the world follows this, they get to moksha.
Right. But then what is, like, I'm not sure if it is symbolism or a way of explaining it, but when Krishna explains Arjun about death and that leaving the body, then you either meet me, or you, like, either you become one with me, or you go back to taking a rebirth. So how is moksha and that concept related?
Yes, see, what drives birth, rebirth, is desires. Never mind death and birth.
Yeah.
During our lifetime, we move from experience to experience driven by desire.
Right.
Why have we come here today? Desire has brought
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Where will we go next? Whichever next desire takes us. So desire is the fuel that drives movement.
Right.
At death, what happens is that you have you have desires that cannot be fulfilled in the present body and present environment. For instance, at my age, if I develop a desire to win the Wimbledon, not possible. So that necessitates a change.
Right.
This change is death of the former body, birth of the next body. This goes on as long as you have desires. At any stage you opt out of this, meaning I want to reduce desires, I want to eliminate desires, you get to moksha.
Okay.
You get to zero desires, that's moksha.
Okay. It's funny, but like I was discussing this also with one of my friends, that we talk about life all the time, but we don't talk about death. That's where we were going. But is there an explanation, or is there a correct method explained through Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita, the correct way to die?
Yes. See, the concept is that we have, let's say, 1,000,000 desires.
Yeah.
They are in the subconscious.
Okay.
Out of these, a handful are strong. They are pressing for fulfillment. Let's say 500. So these 500 come together and determine your present life.
Yeah.
Your birth, your family, in the family in which you were born, your gender, everything is determined by these 500 desires.
Right.
And your life, during your lifetime, whatever you do or don't do, these 500 will automatically get fulfilled.
Yeah.
Now, once these 500 are fulfilled, the next bundle of, let's say, 300 desires are now pressing for fulfillment. But the problem is there is a mismatch between these desires and your present body and environment.
Okay.
So it calls for a change. That is called death of this body and birth of the next body. So it's called prarabdha vasanas.
Okay.
Prarabdha vasanas 1 are exhausted. Prarabdha vasanas 2 take over in the next birth.
Okay.
So this goes on. And during your lifetime, your prarabdha vasanas get fulfilled. But you have access to your totality. That 1,000,000 you can reduce, you can increase, you can eliminate, you can upgrade, you can downgrade, you can do what you like with it. That we have to focus on.
Okay.
Because those determine your future life. And you have to be very careful what you think, what you do, what desires you cultivate, what attachments you form, because they may lead you to a place that you don't want to go to.
Right. So while the process of death, or because nobody knows when they're going to die.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
But you don't need to know when you're going to die. You just need to know that you are going to die. And prepare for your afterlife.
Right. Okay.
Rather than worrying about today. See, does it make sense that you are a billionaire in this life, but you act in such a way that when you die, you are born as a beggar in the opposite pavement?
No. This is a downgrade.
Yes. So you have to ensure that you prepare for the next life along with enjoyment of this. Like there's a story of a state in which the king would be appointed every 5 years.
Yeah.
But at the end of the 5 years, he would be ferried across the river to die there. Wild animals would devour him. So this went on. Finally, one young man opted to be king, volunteered to be king. And there was a difference. With each passing year, his enjoyment increased instead of reducing. And in the last year, he was really having a party every night. Last day, he threw a magnificent banquet for all the citizens, waved goodbye to them, and went and sat in the boat. He looked at the boatman, there was an old man. He asked him, how much do you earn carrying a king once in 5 years? He said 10,000 rupees a month. This guy asked him, will you work for me if I double your pay? He thought he was offering him a job in heaven. But just then they reached the other shore, and to the amazement of the boatman, there was no wild jungle there. There was a beautiful state that had been constructed where this man would be permanent king.
Hmm.
So what did he do during the 5 years that he was temporary king? Transferred the assets to the other shore.
Okay.
That is what we need to do.
Hmm.
Enjoy your life here. Do what you have to do. But never forget to transfer your assets to the next birth.
But is there any way? That's what I was asking.
Yes.
To do, like,
Good
to
karma.
understand it.
Good
Okay.
karma.
Hmm.
You must think good, well of people. You must think positive.
Okay.
You must feel love for all beings.
Hmm.
You must serve them. Serve a higher cause. Do that and you're done.
Okay. Great. Since we are talking about death, and if someone wants to understand that how do I live this life with like complete extraction of the juice of life, like not living in exhaustion, not living in that sadness, not living in that constant confusion of relationships and money and job, although these are parts which we need, but then how do I extract the rust of life?
Live in the moment.
Okay.
Live in the present. Enjoy the present. Gain maximum returns. Like you said, extract the maximum juice from the present moment, for which your mind needs to be on the present. 100% of your mind needs to be on the present. And you need to switch off the past, which is dead and gone. You can't do anything about it. Switch off from the future, which is unborn. So you can't enjoy it. So we have a saying, clip the past, clip the future, plunge into the present, and you enjoy every moment.
Okay, but at the same time, people who might be going through a lot of stuff. Like people go through a lot of stuff. Just say, for example, I have a back pain right now, but I'm not focusing on the back pain right now. Um, how do I live in the moment if something which I think is going wrong? Like how do I change my mindset? For example, someone is going through a breakup. Now the whole day becomes about the breakup. That okay, breakup happened, this happened, that happened. But living in the moment, but everything is happening there and then right now.
No, see, the breakup has happened. It's in the past. The present is something different.
Okay.
You answered your own question. You have a backache.
Yeah.
You're not thinking of the backache and you're not suffering from the backache because your mind is on the present.
Yeah.
You
But
get
like
it?
the backache is happening right now also.
Fine. But if you were to switch off from the backache completely, it will not bother you. It will start bothering you only after we finish our discussion.
Right.
So every moment, if you enjoy that present moment, you're done for. But yes, you need to plan for the future. You need to fix a goal in life. What do I want to achieve in my life? What is it that I want to do before I die? All of this. And then work towards it. But every moment, be in the present. There is always something enjoyable in the present.
Right.
You know?
Okay, like in simple words, if I focus on what's going right.
No, just
Okay.
the present moment.
Okay.
Whatever is the present moment, you enjoy it. There is a movie called Life is Beautiful. In that, there was this man and his 4-year-old son who are preparing to celebrate the child's birthday. This is during the Second World War, when the Nazis come and take them to a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Huh? This man decides to protect the son from the ills of the concentration camp. And every time the child complains about the food is not good or why are they mean, he said he converted the whole thing into a game to celebrate his birthday. He says, this is a unique birthday party for you. What? Concentration camp. And he told him, every time you meet with something unpleasant without complaining, you earn points. And if you earn 1,000 points, you'll get the tank. He wanted a toy tank. And it's amazing how, with his just cheerful attitude and positivity, he gets all the prisoners happy. They are having a party every day there in the concentration camp. Even the guards join them.
Okay.
And in the end, the Americans enter in a tank. And the boy goes there. In his mind, it's his prize that he's earning. The American gets up and says, aren't you afraid? He says, no. because this is the
Hmm.
price. So it is, even in the worst circumstances. After I watched that movie, I said, if that man
Hmm.
could not think ill of anybody and was happy, I have no reason to complain.
Hmm.
Hmm?
Right.
So it's a mindset that we need to cultivate.
Right.
And that mindset then makes you powerful because you become independent of the environment. The environment does not have the power to influence you.
Freedom. Okay.
That is moksha.
Wow. Okay. One last question before we end the whole session. Like you said, like you just explained this, how do we understand and apply this in case of toxic relationships with people? Maybe my girlfriend or maybe my friend. If I am living in the moment, enjoying it, but again, I have someone who is constantly very toxic with me, like what people say, toxic relationships are not, you should just let go of those people or, cut off these people. So if this is my attitude, then I don't think I'll find anyone toxic. But if that person is harming me in some way, how can I manage that?
Yeah, see, no, but we don't recommend that you voluntarily enter a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Similarly,
Right.
you don't. The first step is you
Hmm.
must use your intellect in deciding what kind of relationship you want to enter into.
Hmm.
So if you use your intellect correctly,
Hmm.
you will never be in a toxic relationship. Number one,
Hmm. Okay.
because you've taken the wrong decisions. See, a person who is fun to spend a night out at a
Hmm.
party is not necessarily a life partner, a good
Right.
life partner.
Right.
That you must understand.
Hmm.
So the basis on which you decide how whether or not to get into a relationship itself is wrong.
Hmm. True.
You're looking at superficial things.
Hmm. Hmm.
So Vedanta teaches you how to take the right decisions.
Hmm.
And if, in spite of your good judgment, you enter into you have a toxic relationship, you learn the art of managing it in such a way that you marginalize the toxin, and carry on your life without it.
Right.
So there are many husbands, for instance, who have toxic wives. I mean, there's a gentleman in Mumbai
Hmm.
whose wife is constantly shouting at somebody or the other. Uh, So, at servants, for instance.
Hmm.
So, what does he do? He, at the end of the month, the wife pays them their salary, the servants. He calls them all afterwards and gives them extra money. So, they say, no, we've already got. He said, वो है सैलरी, मैं जो दे रहा हूँ वो डांट खाने के लिए.
Huh.
So, in other words, he has managed his whole life in such a way that her toxicity does not influence him.
Hmm.
This is if you happen to be in a toxic relationship that you cannot get out of.
Yeah. Huh.
But if you can get out of it, get out. Number two is, how much of that toxic relationship have you contributed to?
True.
If you have that toxicity within you, then every relationship you have will turn toxic
Hmm.
because you are contributing to it.
Right.
So there's a lot there
Hmm.
to learn from the Bhagavad Gita. And in relationships, it's a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
It
Okay.
teaches you the right attitude, the right starting point itself.
Hmm. So, but how do I approach then to relationships? Like,
See, we should learn to be self-sufficient.
okay.
No? Most of us are not.
Hmm.
So we have that creeper attitude. So creeper winds itself
Yeah.
around a tree.
Yeah.
So we go looking for people and wind ourselves around those people.
Hmm.
That is called attachment. So then I am leaning on you, I am dependent on you,
Depending.
and therefore I have expectations from you. I make demands on you.
Hmm.
And when these are not met with, I get frustrated. There's conflict. This is the
Hmm.
starting point of every relationship.
True.
Instead, if you say that you invest in becoming self sufficient,
Hmm.
then you're happy with the person, you're happy
Without.
without the person.
Okay.
And then you have no expectations from the
Hmm.
person. You
Hmm.
accept the
Hmm.
person as he or she is. You
Yeah.
love the person as he or she is.
Yeah.
No problems.
Great. Wow, that's a beautiful perspective to
Yeah.
live life. Great, ma'am. Ending the episode with one request. Like I love the way you put things very easily, not making very complicated stuff out of it. Uh, for viewers who are interested, can you give details of how they can access you or meet you or maybe learn directly through you?
Yes, we have a lot of videos on YouTube. We are present on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where all the young people are. So
Yeah.
all you have to do is search for it and you get it. We also have a website
Mm-hmm.
where we have books, we have pen drives, we have all kinds of things available. So you can access them. And for those of you or those of your viewers who happen to be in Mumbai,
Okay.
from 16th to 19th October, we're having a series of lectures in person in an auditorium, Bharati Vidya Bhavan. They are free to come. They are free lectures. Anyone can come in. All are welcome.
Yeah.
And we also have online classes on the Bhagavad Gita every Saturday,
Hmm.
so that you can visit our website and register for them. Again, these are free. All our activities are free.
Great.
So they can access the knowledge anytime.
Hmm.
You only have to want it, and we have it.
Great, great. This is one more question, and you can choose to answer it or not answer it. This is just my curiosity. Um, a lot of people who are into helping the world, shaping the future generations like yourself, have been through a very tough past. Like I have seen personally myself when I have that desire of helping people through my mediums. I know that I have seen my side of darkness and this. Has anything happened to you that changed your mindset or changed your life, which because of which you chose this path?
Nothing unpleasant,
Hmm.
fortunately.
Hmm.
Um, I think I was born with a deep desire for spirituality, which
Okay.
started manifesting early in life, in
Hmm.
childhood.
Hmm.
But yes, there was a statement from Swami Ramatirtha which really helped change my life. And that was, he said, if you're not happy as you are, where you are,
Hmm.
you will never be happy. Hmm?
Okay.
So at that moment, I was young
Hmm.
and wanted to change something around me. And I stopped right there because of this statement
Hmm.
and said, I must learn to be happy as I am, where I am.
Hmm.
And I did not change.
Hmm.
And that was the most critical change in my life.
Okay.
So the accent changed from
Hmm.
trying to change the world to become happier to changing yourself. Hmm? And that has paid rich dividend.
Wow.
So my appeal to your listeners is,
Hmm.
or to people who are watching, is give yourself a chance.
Hmm.
You belong to a culture that is so rich that no other culture in the world, no other country in the world has. Tap into it
Right.
and use it to change from mediocrity to excellence, from being an ordinary person to being the extraordinary person.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you'll be happy, you'll be prosperous.
Hmm.
Whatever it is that you want, you will get if
Yeah.
you pursue this.
Great. Thank you so much, Jaya ma'am. It was a pleasure sitting next to you and talking to you and asking questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're so cheerful by nature that that's the starting point of spiritual life.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.